Getting set for Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight alongside Pierre LeBrun is the Edmonton Oilers just look to live to fight one more day, Pierre. Chris Knoblauch, it's Stanley Cup Final time. He's going to clam up about his lineup. He was almost apologetic about it today. He was like, there's a little more at stake right now. So in terms of potential changes for the Oilers, it's tough to say. But we can tell you that Darnell Nurse did skate, spent just over 20 minutes or so on the ice, looked to be pretty normal. So expectation is he'll be good to go. But I think the sense, Pierre, from the head coach is that there isn't necessarily a lot that needs to change. It's kind of more of the same and just bury some chances.
I don't think it's that simple. I mean, there's a reason they're down 3-0, Ryan, in my opinion. I understand where he's coming from, that the scoring chances seem to be there. They look at the data. I got news for you. What we finally saw in the third period out of desperation is what they need to do for a full 60 minutes, and that's crash the net and make life more difficult for Sergei Bobrovsky. You can't stop what you can't see, and the reality is the Oilers, I don't think, have paid the price physically enough to be around that blue paint. We did see that in the third period.
So Knoblauch will refer to expected goals, which is kind of a metric, the quality of their shots. And if you continue with that quality of shot, you're eventually going to score. He believes that. Overall shots, scoring chances, all those metrics paint a picture that it's going well for the Oilers and that it shouldn't be a 3-0 series. But it's not, Pierre. And I can't help but also wonder if maybe taking some of the less obvious chances and just throwing pucks towards the net, right? Some of the less obvious ones, I feel like they got to change something. More of the same, just bury, doesn't feel like the answer to me either.
Yeah, they got to score greasier goals. The problem is that's not really the DNA of the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers are a thoroughbred. I mean, they are a finesse F1 engine. They score beautiful goals. That's who they are. It's what's made them one of the most dangerous teams in the National Hockey League. It's just that against the Florida Panthers, it's so difficult to find that kind of space, that creative space. They suffocate you. It's what they're good at. It's what they did to Boston and the Rangers and the Lightning. And so I understand you don't want to change your entire game in the Stanley Cup Final this late into the year, but they have to at least tweak it if they think they can get more offense.
Missing Evander Kane potentially again tonight, that's a big part of going to the net and crashing bodies. Always looking for little moments of inspiration. Duncan Keith, who's done a lot of consulting with the Oilers, working with some of the Blue Liners, spent some time in the locker room yesterday. He's been in one of these before and came close to coming back.
Yeah, 2011. I actually flew in for Game 7. I remember covering that, Ryan. Chicago was down 3-0.
That was back when you're big time and you only flew in for Game 7s. I remember that. Call me when it's Game 7, says Pierre.
You are such a jerk. Yeah, Chicago was down 3-0 and forced Game 7 in overtime, and the Canucks managed to hold them off. I think it's Alex Burrows scored in overtime, but Duncan Keith was part of that Hawks team and addressed the Oilers about that, which was kind of neat. You always look for inspiration. Listen, I witnessed history in 2014. The LA Kings were down 3-0 to the San Jose Sharks. Yeah. They won Game 4, and I'll never forget, Ryan, Drew Doughty looking at us and saying, we got this. We know we can get in their heads and we can win this. Boy, did they ever. But it's rare. Let's face it. The Oilers need to find a way to win one game tonight.
They asked me if I wanted to go in for that game. I said, give Pierre a shot. This will be his big break. Get LeBrun in there. Philip Broberg has come into the series. He's checked into the playoffs in a big way. This is a guy who was very much on the outside of the NHL looking in most of this season, on the outside of the playoffs looking in most of the playoffs. Then he got tapped on the biggest stage, Pierre. He has been something else for a guy with his experience level.
I think it's an amazing story. I mean, you cover this team all the time. This guy was buried in the minors, and really they didn't want to bring him up unless they had a role for him, right? And he has a role now since the Western Conference Final. I talked to him this morning, and I said, obviously you scored in a losing cause the other night, and it must have felt good. But what he talked about is that he's feeling more and more comfortable to push up the ice if he sees the opportunity. He says, we need offense. So I got to think he's had that message from Paul Coffey, that if he sees the opportunity to go for it, and I think we're seeing that in this series from him.
All right, on the lineup front, there was some chatter on Oiler Twitter about Sam Gagner potentially getting tapped. We saw him burn his legs out here pretty good. I think that is highly unlikely. It'll be fascinating to see what Chris Knoblauch does. Again, a reminder, he tweaked his second line yesterday. Warren Foegele and Corey Perry. We'll see if he goes with that tonight, and Leon Draisaitl as well. Will more of the same, just finishing chances, be enough, or can the Oilers find a deeper level to stay alive here tonight?